In this tutorial, we're going to learn how to do file operations inside Python. In this exercise, we're going to have a text file that stores a series of names, and we're going to read each of those names into our Python script and then output them. So to get started, we have to create a text document. So inside a directory inside Windows, I'm going to right-click and go to New and Text Document in order to create a brand new text document. For that text document, I'm going to call it names, and it's going to be saved as names.txt. Inside names.txt, once I double click and open names.txt in Notepad, I can start writing in some names. So the names that I'm going to put are John, Sally, Jane, and Sam. And then I'm going to save that file. So I'm going to go to File, Save. So now we have a text file that's loaded with these 4 names stored into names.txt. We can go ahead and close that file. Inside the same directory, we're going to create a Python script that's going to read in this file. So I'm going to open up idle, and inside idle, I'm going to save this script in the same directory as names.txt. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to navigate to where my names.txt is located. In this case, it's Documents, Python, and here I'm going to call it names script. Save that file, and now that file is saved in the same directory as my names.txt. This will be my working directory. So back into my namescript.py inside idle, I can start doing the operations that will read the content of names.txt. The very first thing you have to do is create a file inside Python. It's just a pointer that represents whatever file you want to read. So I'm going to create a new variable called names file, which represents the names.txt, and I'm going to open up the names.txt file. To open it up, we have to use the open function. The open function takes in several parameters, but the first 2 are the ones that we're concerned about: the file and the mode. The file is the path to the text file that we want to open, that we want to read. In this case, it's called names.txt. And it has to be in quotes because this is a string that we'll be reading. So inside names.txt, it has the names that we want, and because we want to perform a read operation, our mode, the next parameter, is going to have to be R. It just represents that we're going to be reading here. You can have it in single or double quotes. So I'm going to put it in double quotes just for consistency, and then close the parentheses to finish my open function. So now with this line here, we are opening up this text file in read mode. So next thing we have to do is put some comments. So I'm going to say here, we are opening names.txt, because that's what this line here does. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to read in the content. Actually, we're going to read the first line of our names.txt, so it should be Johnny. So we're going to read the first line. And to do that, we're going to refer to our names file, which is the pointer to our names.txt. So first I'm going to get the first name, store it into a variable called first name, and I'm going to read in the content of that file. So I'm going to say names file.read line. And it's a function that reads in the current line that we are in at our names.txt. In this case, because we haven't read anything in names.txt, it's going to be the very first line inside that text file. So if I open up the text file, it should read Johnny. So going back into Python, this read line is going to read the very first line, because it's the first read that we have here, of the names.txt. Because I want to store that first line somewhere, I'm going to make a variable assignment to the output of this. And read line returns a string. So it's going to return the string of John. And then I want to print the content of first name. So I'm going to use the print function, and I'm going to pass in a variable that has the string that I want. In this case, it's first name. And I'm going to put a comment just so we know what we're doing. So output first name. So what this will do is, just to recap, it opens up the file here, then it reads the first line here, and then it outputs the content of that first line. So let's go ahead and run and see what happens. So the script went through the file, it opened up names.txt, and it read in John. So it read in the first name. So let's say if we want to read all of the content of our text file. Well, we can continue this with a new variable. So going back into idle, we can call it rest of the names. And we can read in all the content. First, we're going to refer to our names file. Again, just similar as we've done here. So we're going to say names file dot, and instead of read line, we're going to just simply do read. By calling the read function, it reads in the rest of the content of the file. So if we did not do this, it's going to read in the full content of names.txt, but because we already read in the first line, it's going just to read in the rest of the names. So I'm going to put in a comment that says read in the rest of the names. And we're storing the rest of the names into the rest of the names variable. So let's go ahead and output that as well to see what we get. Just like that. Okay, so let's run and see what we get. So the first line, we read in Johnny, so that's what we're doing here. And the next line after that, after print, we're reading in the rest of the content. So the rest of the content is stored into this variable here, and it's outputted here. That's why we're able to get Sally, Jane, and Sam. And if you're wondering why we have a space between John and Sally, it's because we made two print function calls here and here. So at the end of this one, it created a new line, and then this one print the rest. So that's it for reading in files. Next, we'll do the operations of how to write files. But the final thing is, once you're done with reading in content from a file, once you're finished with a file, it's always good practice to go ahead and close the file. So I'm going to say close the file names. So file names file.close will close the file, saying that we're done reading in the rest of the content here. And go ahead and run this one last time. And there we go. So the operation, our script is complete with closing our file.